an enormous honor to be here with you all. You know, I did my PhD on elephants and I live in Africa. And there are so many challenges that we face every day. And it's easy to feel really despondent. We are witnessing a massacre of elephants of unprecedented proportions. And many people think it's just too late. The problem is too big. The demand is too enormous. And how do you turn that despondency around into hope? Well, coming here to Colorado to see the crush is incredibly moving and inspiring for me. What I see is people on the other side of the planet joining Africa in a cause to save a species that only exists in the wild in Africa. And this sense of partnership is something that this crush is not just the end of it, this is the beginning of a partnership. The beginning of doing something different and actually making a difference for elephants in Africa. In 1989, Kenya burned her entire ivory stockpile. And that resulted in an international ban on ivory trade and elephant populations began to increase. Before that, there really was a sense like a déjà vu. We were exactly where we are today. Elephants were sliding towards extinction. And it really breaks my heart that we're actually back where we were. And we can't afford for this to happen again. We really do need to make a difference. The call for the ban on ivory trade here in the United States has to go far beyond the US. It's got to go global. We can't let this situation come back again. We made a mistake, I believe, in the last CITES convention when it was agreed to sell ivory to China. I think that as we move forward and as we think about the solutions, and there are so many great people here in Denver with us and around the world who are doing amazing work to save elephants. But it's just not working. The poachers are poaching at a faster rate. The traffickers are moving ivory at a faster rate, and the buyers are buying more and more ivory. We need to do something differently. We need to rethink our approach, and we've got to be much more strategic. And this is why we started our campaign in Kenya called Hands Off Our Elephants. It's really a campaign about behavior change, because it's not just elephants. It's not just those wonderful, charismatic animals wandering across the savannah. It's about our heritage. It's about our identity as Africans, and we wanted to bring this back to the people of Africa and say, we have to take a leadership position as Africans. And as people, we need to demand it of our leadership. Seeing the US government take such a strong role is a great story to take back to Africa and say to our leaders, you know, you have to step up as well. When we started our campaign, we wanted to understand what the problems were. We have 3,000 rangers on the ground. The Kenya Wildlife Service is considered one of the best anti-poaching forces in Africa. So how come there is so much poaching? How come Kenya is #2 in the world for the trafficking of ivory if things are so good in the country? Well, our analysis revealed that the problem was not the anti-poaching necessarily. It was that thousands of poachers were being arrested, and less than 5% of them were going to jail. I actually sat in court and witnessed a Vietnamese trafficker with 2 gigantic suitcases full of ivory worth about $55,000. He pleaded guilty, and he was charged the same day and fined the same day $350. And he left the country. So when I say this problem is not just a conservation problem, it's not just an elephant problem, it's actually a problem of all of these systems, all of the different parts of the system, the judiciary, the prosecutors, the enforcement officers, and the communities on the ground. So we went to Kenya's First Lady and we said, will you help us to take this message to the people of Kenya and around the world? And we took her to Amboseli. So in Kenya, any of you who've been to Kenya, you know what it's like. We have these phenomenal populations of elephants where every single individual elephant is known as a person. It has a name, has a family, has babies, children, grandchildren. And meeting those animals is a life-changing experience. But it's especially life-changing when you get to meet them with the people who study them. We took Margaret Kenyatta to meet the Amboseli elephants with Katito Soyalal. She's a Maasai woman, a woman from the local community, a woman who has hardly been recognized around the world. She studied elephants for 17 years. And she told us the stories of these elephants. Now, when elephants get poached, a lot of people see it as statistics, 35,000 elephants. What does that mean? Well, if any of you have seen Nick Brandt's photographs, and you meet an elephant called Kumquat, and you hear Kumquat's incredible story of a rise to be one of the most famous elephants in the world, this incredible matriarch of a family of 29 individuals, and then you see Kumquat in a photograph that Nick took with her face hacked off. It's just, words just can't describe the horror. Her and her entire family were slaughtered, and her tiny calf, Kwanzaa, ended up at the Sheldrick Trust. Those stories have to be told. They have to be told in a way that every single person around the world can connect. We're privileged in Kenya that we live with these animals. We can go out every single day and go and meet elephants. For now, 10 years' time, we won't be able to. And as Kenyans, I think we take it for granted. As Africans, we take it for granted that we have elephants. And so I had this amazing experience in the last weekend. I went to a little village called Deep River in Connecticut, and I met a community of people whose entire prosperity rests on the back of ivory. I don't know how many of you know this, that the village of Deep River and Ivoryton received 90% of the ivory that came into the United States in the 18th and 19th century. And I'm telling you the story because it's about the history of this country, and it's about the history of African elephants and Africa. Ivory was coming out of Africa at a rate of 100,000 elephants per year to the United States. When we talk about the US being a country of demand today, well, it's nothing compared to what it used to be. And this history has to be acknowledged. If we don't acknowledge our role, we will never find solutions that are going to work.